Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Like I say, I'm human. I've never once said that I was perfect. I never proclaimed that I was perfect. But at the end of the day, people pick and they do things of that sort. And that the truth of the matter is, who are you to say that your way is right?
What do you mean, who are we?
Sorry, not sorry.
We are the media and we are fans, and we all have opinions about everything we see and hear. Cam Newton, as he cleared out his locker today in Charlotte, we'll hear more from him and from the coach Ron Rivera. And basketball, not a good night. Had a good build-up, had a really good build-up to the night last night. USC women and UConn and Clemson and Notre Dame, but not a good finish for either. The Gamecock women were handled by the Huskies once again, and the Clemson men, well, in the second half, Notre Dame just shot the lights out. That's a good-looking team. They move the ball extremely well. They make that extra pass, and all five of their guys, well, four of them can shoot from the outside, and August is tough inside around the basket. That's a good-looking team.
You can see it's been much more than a decade now, but you can see a lot of Duke from Mike Brey in that team. Of course, Mike Brey came with Coach Krzyzewski when they both were at Duke early on in Krzyzewski's career, and boy, you're right. They space the floor.
They spread you out.
Well, yeah.
They move it against you, and they pass it so well. K-Mac, the USC women, for the second year in a row, really no contest. I think the most disappointing thing from a Gamecock standpoint, not so much that they lost, but for the second year in a row against UConn, a team that they're being measured against, they just weren't competitive.
No, there's a huge gap. It's like the Grand Canyon between number one and number two in women's college basketball. UConn has won 3 straight national championships, going for 4. They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
They're a great team. It was not competitive. It wasn't as close as a score would indicate. Even there was not a time in that game where you thought South Carolina had really a legitimate chance of winning that game after the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I like to look at self-inflicted wounds. South Carolina took the floor like they didn't belong. You're beat right there.
Again?
Yeah, you're beat right there.
Did you sense that?
Two 30-second shot clock violations in the first 4
Well,
possessions.
that had a lot to do with UConn all up in their grill. I mean, they got up there, and every basket they got, and both teams had a hard time scoring. Now, South Carolina made it difficult on UConn to score too, but Elena Coates only had 2 points. I mean, that's one of the best interior players in the country, and she only ends up with 2 points.
My thing is this: if you hold them to 60-something points and they're averaging 90, your best player goes out of the game with an injury, and you lose by 12. You got to play him 2 more times again because this series extends 2 more years. You got to find a way because that's the team you have to go through if you want to win the title.
All right, we'll be right back here on Sports Talk. All right, welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network from downtown Columbia, Main Street, because we are the Sports Talk show of Main Street, South Carolina, the only sports talk show in the world to cover the USC women, Connecticut, and the Clemson men, Notre Dame, last night. We were there with eyeballs on the action. So we can tell you what happened on the court and behind the scenes. If you watched it in person or on the tube, 800-956-7266, the number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at sportstalksc. The other question of the day, and this will eventually go away later this week, are we wrong? Are people wrong in how they are reacting to Cam Newton on two fronts? Number one, failing to dive for the fumble, and number two, his post-game press conference. Are we being too hard? I saw where McElroy, is that right? The former Alabama quarterback who's on ESPN. Now, keep in mind, he's an Alabama guy. Yeah. He really verbally abused Cam Newton.
Well, I mean, Sims was doing it in the most passive-aggressive way possible during the broadcast. So I guess you didn't want that fumble. And he said today that he thought his leg would have been contorted wrong. I mean, I think he genuinely, first of all, I think Cam was hurting in that game. He was getting pounded. Shoulder head. They said he ran 100 yards to the wrong end of the field and went in the wrong tunnel at halftime. And some people thought he had a concussion then when he went to the wrong tunnel. Now that could be just confusion over where you're going in a stadium that you're not used to playing in.
Maybe he's looking for a way out.
You can get upset. Yeah. Well, how do I get home? You can get upset. I mean, if you want to get mad about his post-game thing, you're entitled to. I think it was very predictable. I knew when I watched it, I said, there's what everybody's going to be talking about tomorrow. They're going to be hammering on Cam Newton. But he is who he is. That's who he is, and he doesn't really care. And he went out there, he didn't have anything to say, so he didn't say it. And he doesn't care if people want to rip him. And the whole thing about the fumble, Cam is one of the most physical players in the NFL. This guy sacrifices his body every week. So I don't think he was like, I don't want to get hurt. I'd rather not get hurt than win the game. I think he thought, I don't know if I can get in there. And what good is it going to be if Cam jumps on that ball, they recover it, and it's 4th and 50.
Well, it keeps him alive in the game.
And Cam Newton separates his shoulder and he's out of the game.
Well,
and they're still punting with less than 4 minutes left.
You bring in Derek Anderson. He's got all year to recover.
And maybe he thinks the ball ricochets, but you don't know what's going to happen. The last thing you want is to be – I mean –
there's not a football player alive who doesn't die for that football.
Well, apparently there's one.
And
that's the whole thing.
That's what I mean. That's my point.
It's a split-second thing.
There are two
They do drills in practice to dive on the football.
Not quarterbacks. No. They tell the quarterbacks to get out of there.
Thank you. It's almost like the pitcher when it's a fly ball in the infield. Don't you catch it. You let somebody else catch it.
I don't believe
they tell their quarterbacks to get
I tell you, who else wouldn't have gone for that ball?
Would Deshaun Watson die for that football?
Yes, because he's a college guy.
Would Connor Shaw die for that football?
He's a college guy.
Not in the NFL.
Would Johnny Unitas die for that football?
They find quarterbacks for not sliding in the NFL.
I'll ask you this question. I'll tell you who else on the field wouldn't have dove for that ball. Peyton Manning. With that neck he had,
I don't know.
You think he would have dove in there?
I don't know. Peyton Manning's a man's man.
When those guys throw interceptions and they go down.
He's got a chicken neck.
Yeah, come on.
No,
come on.
Wouldn't happen.
But everybody wants to hate on Cam. And you know what? When you do all the dabbing and dancing, you're going to have that. And it goes both ways. I don't think, and we'll hear from him later, he doesn't care. It's just like Kobe Bryant doesn't care that people don't like him. They just want to go out there, do their thing, and win. And he's wired differently. Tiger Woods, for a while, didn't care. He doesn't care what people, when he was in his heyday, he didn't care what people said, and he would yell at people in the gallery, and everybody's like, the guy's not as friendly as Phil Mickelson. These guys are wired a different way, and in their mind, in Cam's mind, it's not part of his job to sit here and entertain everybody after the game and give them these long answers. So he doesn't. Now you can say I don't like that about him, and I'm not going to.
Well, he does. He does when he wins. He gets plenty of long answers after things are going well.
Go watch his press. Even during the week, by the end of the week, he was like, "I don't want to be up here anymore." Cam is not a guy that likes, and I watch all of his press conferences all season long. As we cover the Panthers, and he walks up there. He's usually up there like, he doesn't seem like he really enjoys talking to the media a lot. He just doesn't, to me. I don't think he's a guy that really likes doing. I think he likes being out on the field, playing and dancing and doing all that stuff and giving the balls to the kids and having a good time. But I don't. He never really strikes me as a guy that really likes doing a bunch of radio and television interviews, and I just don't think that's him.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the number. We'll let you hear from Cam himself coming up. Also, Ron Rivera, also coverage of Clemson from last night. Great performance by Blossom Game, a career-high 30. But what got Clemson, Notre Dame, in one stretch of the second half last night, on 16 trips down the floor, they scored on 14 of them in a variety of ways, threes, twos, and then free throws down the stretch. They hit all but I think it was all but one down the stretch. So they were lighting it up. They shot 57% in the second half.
They what they reminded me of in that series? They looked like an NBA team, like Golden State, when they made a quick extra pass to the guy was wide open.
Oh, yeah.
Because a bunch of those shots, I mean, there was no hand in the face.
All right, let's take a few phone calls. 800-956-7266 is the number. We'll update some notes for you here as we move along through the program. We'll give you a little recruiting too. Hank in Columbia listening to us on The Point. Our good friend Kevin Cohen over there on The Point. Good to have them with us and good to have Hank with us as well. Hank, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Phil. I think I agree with K-Mac. They talked to a number of NFL coaches since that scenario, and almost all of them said that the quarterbacks are coached. I mean, not to, unless they got a clear hand of it, not to get in there. And when he flipped that, he got his hand on the ball because it came out of the scrum. And if he'd gone in, that wouldn't have happened. So, I think a lot of people just looked at it from a split second, not being on the field. But they said the quarterbacks are told, not unless you got a clear way to get it, not to get into a scrum because they're too valuable. And if you coach like that all year,
But you know what? It's 5 minutes ago in the Super Bowl. You're still in the game. If you don't get that fumble, then the game's over.
But the game might be over. Anyway. But Phil, it's a split second. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it 3 days later. It's a split second. You're reacting. It's like when you're in the car and you're about to hit, you have a second to react, and maybe you don't hit the brakes in time and you run into the back of somebody. Like if he could go back and do it again, maybe he would dive in there. But your brain might say, "But wait, no, you're coached a certain way, or you think the ball is going to come out." And to me, I just look at the bigger picture. Is he a guy that's known for being soft, avoiding contact? He's not. He's one of the most physical quarterbacks, if not the most physical quarterback in the league. He takes more hits than anybody in the league. I don't think he did it because he didn't care or didn't want to win the game or that he had quit. It wasn't, it was a play where even if he does get that ball, the Panthers are punting and they might even get the ball back again.
But I mean, they had no chance by not getting the ball. They eliminated
not only not getting the ball, and it got kicked back into the end. Yeah, I mean,
but then again,
he didn't know that was going to.
You can always go back to the 4th and 24 when they punted. What was that all about?
I mean, what if he stands back there, the ball pops up to him and he catches it and he runs for 30 yards and everybody's like, what a great play by Cam. I mean, you don't know. That ball bounces all kinds of weird ways, and there were Bronco players that said, and there was one, I don't know which one, he said, I was going to hit him right in the face if he dove in there. I was ready. He was going to get hit in the face.
He's 6'4", 230 pounds.
I don't care how
He's
big
known
you
for
are.
his toughness.
Yeah, Von Miller comes in and pops you in the face.
He started to go down for it, and then he pulled away from it. It's a bad look. The point of the game, I hear what you're saying about protecting quarterbacks, but here's a quarterback that doesn't play that way. He doesn't protect himself. He flips into the end zone. He dives over linebackers. He gives up his body 100% of the time. So why, in the most crucial play of the game, to give your team a chance, you decide to pull up?
That play is not when they lost.
It would have given them a chance, is what I'm saying. Why did you not give your body up then?
They would have been punting.
800-956-7266. Back in a moment. All right, 800-956-7066, the number. A couple of football notes from Duke. Bad news. The Blue Devils have lost their starting quarterback, Thomas Sirk, ruptured Achilles tendon in a conditioning session. Surgery tomorrow. Second time he's had this injury. So it's going to probably mean his this season, I would imagine. He passed for 2,600 yards and 16 touchdowns last season. So that will elevate to the starting quarterback job. Parker Bame will get the majority of the reps preparing for the upcoming season. Also from Kentucky, the Wildcats say they've dismissed defensive back Will Jackson for an undisclosed violation of team rules. He was redshirted as a freshman last season. All right, 800-956-7266. Should Cam have stuck his nose in there and gotten that football? Also, what about USC women last night, Clemson men last night? Terry up in Charlotte, welcome in to Sports Talk. How are you?
What's going on, guys?
How are you, sir?
I'm great. To me, the fumble, I think that was an irrelevant play in the game. I mean, it was a microcosm. They didn't play well. The bigger problem I had, I will say, is Cam, you've got the man up, bro. You're a $100 million franchise quarterback. You're the new face of the NFL. You've got to take the good with the bad. I know it's a disappointing effort. You're not used to losing, and I get that from your college days and everything. But you got to take all of the questions. The only problem I have, I don't know how Roger Goodell and this billion-dollar company called the NFL, how you have the visiting, the losing, and the winning locker rooms with the interview sessions. Way they're situated.
And it's a circus. I can tell you, as a guy that I've been to a few Super Bowls, and that whole media scrum is a circus, and all the players are around there and all the media. And for the losing team, it's really hard because those guys, I mean, their whole season, they've just been crushed. And you see that locker room and you see those players. It's a very morbid thing. On the other side, it's pure jubilation. And
apparently they had him going simultaneously.
Yeah, and he was right. Now, I've never seen one where the guy was right behind them, but it is close. So, and he could hear that. And he could have handled that better, certainly from just an optics standpoint. But at the same time, I remember when LeBron James, when he was losing at Cleveland, he'd lost in a finals game, and he came out there and dressed in this flashy outfit, and he was smiling, and people said, look, he doesn't care enough. This guy doesn't even care. He's out there more worried about fashion and his brand than he is the game. And so now it's the opposite with Cam, because he's clearly, this guy is dejected and demoralized because he wanted to win that game so badly and he didn't. And now he's not long-winded enough and doesn't elaborate enough on his answers. Yeah, he didn't want to talk. Okay, you can kind of understand where he's coming from a little bit there. He just had his dream crushed.
800-956-7266 is our number here on Sports Talk. More of your calls coming up in just a moment. We'll be right back. right, Sports Talk here on a Tuesday night. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at sportstalksc. Website sportstalksc.com. And Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network. New poll question. We had a flash poll up until last night, and that was who would win the women's game between USC and UConn. Most voters picked USC to win that game. Surprise, surprise.
Didn't turn out.
New question. How will USC fare against LSU and Kentucky coming up Wednesday and Saturday? A, win both. B, lose both. C, beat LSU, lose to Kentucky. And A, B, C, D, lose to LSU and beat Kentucky. And so far, most people believe the Gamecocks will win both.
Shocker.
Yeah. Number 2 on the list is by a very close margin, beat LSU, lose Kentucky. Next in order is lose both. And then the fewest number of people believe that they will lose to LSU and beat Kentucky.
Ben Simmons, the Ben Simmons Express.
Now, here's the interesting question. And I've always had this in football, and I'll ask this in basketball. Who benefits more by what? Is it a noon tip Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
The early tip, Kentucky or the home team?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the visiting team benefits because they've been in the hotel and they've already kind of, their mind's focused on the game. They're on a business trip. Sometimes I wonder if that home team, that 12 o'clock tip, if they don't miss that wake-up call a little bit. But then again, it is Kentucky, and they can make you look bad any hour of the day.
And see, the reason why I think probably because they're Kentucky and South Carolina, whether they're ranked in the coaches poll or not, Kentucky has to make some hay. They've got to make some hay, and they'll like to do it to the Gamecocks. Gamecocks deal here is Kentucky, let's face it, you cut off the head of Tyler Ulis, Kentucky is useless. So if anything, defensive job number 1 is to slow him from getting in the lane.
All right, 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Back to your calls in just a moment. While we're talking basketball, Pro got me thinking about RPI today. And South Carolina today by Warren Nolan is down 1 spot to 26. And number 1 in the RPI, Villanova, then Oklahoma, Oregon, Maryland, and Virginia. That's the top 5. And then rolling on down the list, we've got Clemson dropping 4 spots to 87 with its loss. Charleston still at 88. So those are the top 3 from the state of South Carolina in this RPI, which is as good as any other RPI out there, I would say. All right, back to the phones we go. And it's Tim in Charleston with us next here on Sports Talk. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Man, we're doing great. Good to have you with us.
All right. First comment, you can make up all the excuses you want to. There's no excuse for him not diving on that ball. Never mind the didn't want to get hurt crap and all that stuff there. There's 5 minutes left to go in the game. If you don't recover that fumble, you pretty much got no shot. So all that crap, if it was 2 minutes into the game, I can understand it. But 5 minutes left to go in the game, there's no excuse. I think the guy's a great quarterback. He screwed up. But what I don't understand is why the analysis don't have the guts to say the guy screwed up. They're making excuses for him all over the place about why he didn't do it, and there is no excuse.
You don't think he's getting hammered for it? I disagree that no analysts have the guts to criticize him. I think he's taken a lot of heat for that. I mean, it's a huge topic of debate. Not everybody agrees on it, but there are plenty of people out there saying he absolutely should have dove on that ball.
Now, I agree with you. You're expressing my sentiments. I think he should have dove on the ball. I think that's what you do as a football player. I don't know any football player worth his salt who thinks injury before action. Injury never pops into their heads when they're on the football field, at least not at the NFL level and not at the college level. And I really don't think at the high school level at this point in time anymore. They're like you said, like it's a split second. I don't think you've got time to think, well, if I make this move, am I going to break a leg? Am I going to get my shoulder knocked out? Am I going to get a concussion? No, you react. You read and react. And he started to react. I mean, he made a move towards the ball, and then he, for whatever reason,
and then it ricocheted out of
went
there.
the other way.
But they are coached up in the NFL. The quarterbacks are coached up to not dive for a fumble. That is what they're taught. They don't want now. Granted, you could say, "Well, I get that, but this is a Super Bowl," and so I mean that's fair. But you're coached. I mean, those guys get fined for not sliding. They don't want, teams do not want Aaron Rodgers diving into a scrum, taking shots, trying to get a fumble in a football game because that's their franchise quarterback. They don't want Tom Brady diving on top of the same way when they throw an interception. They don't want them trying to make a tackle. They want them to go down, lay on the ground. I mean, that they don't want those guys to take the hits. But they do
it. I've seen Brady chase down defensive backs if he can to try to knock them out of bounds to prevent a touchdown.
Yeah.
I've seen Rodgers do the same thing. I mean, these guys strip them of their numbers saying they're a quarterback. They're football players in their heads too. You see,
but
kickers,
they slide.
You see kickers sticking it up in there when they
quarterbacks slide.
Oh yeah,
that's what I mean. They know the drill.
Well,
they know that they can get hurt.
I get
they
that.
don't play the same way everybody else does.
And they have different rules to protect them.
Cam Newton is one of the most physical. He's not a guy that's afraid of contact and afraid to get hit. We're talking about a split second thing, and in a split second, could he dove in there and got the ball? Maybe, maybe not. We'll never know. But it was such a quick decision. Now, I think this whole notion that he didn't do it because of some nefarious reason where he didn't care or didn't want to win or was quitting, I don't think that was it. That's my opinion. I don't think that was it. Now, we can debate whether or not he should have or could have, or there's a lot of things he could have done differently in that game. There's a lot of things a lot of guys on the Panthers could have done differently. They could have tried blocking Von Miller a little bit better. That might have made life a little easier for Cam Newton. They could have tried not Mike Tolbert, love guy, but he could try not fumbling there after a 20-yard game when they're moving the ball. Jericho Cotchery, you got to make that catch. Josh Norman had his hand on a couple balls that he could have intercepted. So you got to make those kind of plays if you're going to win the Super Bowl.
You got to give credit to Darian Stewart, though. He put that helmet right on Tolbert's football, right there, right? That helmet. Darian Stewart played a pretty good game.
Good game.
But then again, that whole Denver defense.
You know who else? Got a ring? I didn't know that he was a member of the Denver staff. Reggie Herring,
former Clemson,
former Clemson.
Somebody, Gene Sapakoff,
coach,
made this point to me last night, and I think it's a pretty good point with the Denver defense. He said it could be one of the, if not the greatest defense ever. And he talked about the 85 Bears defense, and I don't remember the quarter. I mean, they faced awful quarterbacks in the playoffs. Same with the Ravens. I mean, they beat Kerry Collins in the Super Bowl, an old Kerry Collins. This Broncos defense beat Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady, and the NFL MVP in their playoff run. That's pretty strong.
Well, I want to say in this era of passing on every down, strongest defense I've ever seen. However, in the era when you could get away with everything that would have gotten you locked up, it was the Steelers defense that was the toughest defense I've ever seen.
I hear what you're saying about that. To me, in terms of Super Bowl champions, no one will top the Ravens and that defense and winning with their quarterback. I mean, they won with an average quarterback.
Well, Peyton Manning can't even throw the ball.
But he's still
12 yards.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
and
but
you
man,
have
he did not play
game
well.
plan for him. You have to account for him.
They had what, 6 first? I mean, they did nothing. They had the fewest amount of yards for a Super Bowl.
Actually, what am I saying? Ever. I'm thinking of the Ravens.
The 2000 Ravens.
Yeah, the early Ravens championship.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. I was thinking because they won it again.
They played against a Giants team that had Kerry Collins as their quarterback. They weren't. I mean, these guys beat Tom Brady and Roethlisberger.
The same Ravens
Cam.
team that didn't score an offensive touchdowns in 6 games that year.
All right, we'll be right back. We'll continue with your calls here on Sports Talk. We're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. A little recruiting coming up for you around the corner. Stay tuned for that. When we hit the top of the hour, we have an entire second hour to come, and we'll continue with your phone calls. We don't go away at the top of the hour. Remember that, 2 hours from 6 to 8. Should you lose us over the airwaves, you can stay with us on our website, sportstalksc.com, with the video feed at the bottom of the page and the audio feed as well. If you ever missed the show, go to our website, click on the link to watch shows, and it takes you to our YouTube page. You can go back and look at any show that you have missed. And also, of course, available to you on iHeartRadio, our stations in Myrtle Beach and Greenville, and on the TuneIn app as well, our Columbia station and others available for you there. Our Florence station also available for you on the TuneIn app and others as well. So there's no excuse for you if you want to stay with us should you lose us over the airwaves. No excuse for not being able to find us somehow, some way. Tonight, around the SEC, 4 games: Auburn, Tennessee; Ole Miss, Florida; Georgia, Kentucky. I think that's going to be a pretty good game. If Georgia plays like they played the other day against South Carolina, they might give Kentucky a battle. Arkansas at Mississippi State, rounding out the SEC schedule. In the ACC tonight, of course, Duke. They won yesterday. They beat Louisville, so don't count Duke out. They're starting to find themselves once again. And as far as the ACC schedule for tonight, let's see what's on the agenda. We've got 3 games. Pittsburgh at Miami. That should be good. Tar Heels at Boston College. That won't be good. And Virginia Tech at Virginia could be a good game. Virginia Tech much improved in their second year under Buzz. I sweat like a horse Williams. Yeah, that guy can produce some perspiration.
He's a Texas guy. Went up to Marquette, built Marquette back up to a solid program. And Virginia Tech, it's going to be a little while, but he's got him going in the right direction.
All right, let's get back to phone calls. 800-956-7266. Larry down in Myrtle Beach. Welcome into Sports. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here. I just wanted to say I'm a diehard Panthers fan. Defend Cam Newton. A lot of people are just giving the kid so much grief over nonsense. Okay, and even not diving on that ball, that didn't affect me half as much. And it's not that the kid's a bad person, because I know some people just try to put that out there. But the post, the press conference at the end, he really disappointed me. He really disappointed me, because you have to be able to get up there and be a professional. He didn't want to win that Super Bowl any more than all the other people who have lost Super Bowls. The Buffalo Bills lost 4 in a row, as we know. You still have to get up there. You answer the questions. You just show that you're a professional. And that's all I got, guys.
Well, and thank you. I'm sort of the opposite. If I were a Panther fan, let's just say I'm a Packer fan, and let's just say that was a play and Aaron Rodgers didn't make a dive for the football. As a Packer fan, and I am, and I don't hide from that, I would be more upset about that than anything he would have said or how he handled the post-game press conference. In Cam's case, we talked about it last night. Personally, as a member of the media, I would have liked to have him at least stay through the allotted amount of time. I think the worst thing he did was to get up and walk out. Mm-hmm. The fact that his answers to some questions were short or not long enough to satisfy some people. Look, we get short answers all the time from people. You're not always going to have Dabo Swinney up there.
Marshawn Lynch made a living with those.
Well, he became an icon of that, but not everybody can get away with what he did.
Right.
I think the worst thing Cam did was get up and leave before the allotted time was up. Sit there, and if you want to continue to just give one-word answers. Of course, part of the problem is don't ask a question that allows a one-word answer. That's what you're taught in journalism school. Of course, most of these people were at lunch when they taught how to ask questions in journalism school. You don't ask questions that will elicit a yes or no answer. You try to ask a question that forces a longer or a more detailed response.
Though. I mean, he
gave a couple of answers that had some meat to them.
Yeah.
But even so, even if you're going to get yes or no answers, that's fine. You deal with it as the media. All the media ask is that respect what they have to do, give them their allotted time, and then thank you very much. Have a nice day.
He came out there at least. I mean, it would have been a lot worse on him if he didn't go out there.
Well, he's required to come out there. He had no choice there.
Well, yeah.
NFL's going to make it
paid the fine. But the key point is the position you play. We all know the quarterback gets too much credit and too much blame. But guess what, Cam? You get paid for that.
Yeah, he gets the most money.
Stand in front of the microphone and answer the questions, because not that you're a football player, but you're the QB.
Well, maybe he learns from it.
Yeah, I would hope so. Back in a moment. All right, a couple of recruiting notes for you on this Tuesday night. Wando wide receiver Ortre Smith, 6'4", 212, spectacular junior season, 84 catches, 1,364 yards, and 18 touchdowns. Offers are pouring in. Clemson, USC, Florida State, Louisville, East Carolina, Georgia, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, NC State, Tennessee, among others. He has family ties to Clemson, went to their junior day, January 30th. Will be at USC's junior day this Saturday. He's also going to North Carolina, NC State, and Georgia, and has been talking to Tennessee and Wake Forest. His coach, Jimmy Noonan, former Citadel Bulldog, says no early favorite. He said everyone's had him pegged for Clemson, but he's wide open. Enjoyed his visit up there. Good things to say about it. He's taking everything in. Hopes to narrow things down in the next few weeks, get through junior days, and go to some spring games. Tony Elliott recruiting him for Clemson. Washington, USC recruiter. Also, defensive back Devondre Robinson. Who knows his nickname? K-Mac, you know his nickname?
I have no idea.
Devondre Robinson?
His nickname?
Vaughn? I don't know.
No, it's Tank.
Tank, okay.
Defensive back Devondre Robinson of Lake Marion.
How would we have known that?
If you're paying attention. See if you're paying attention on Twitter. You don't follow him on Twitter?
Well, maybe.
Anyway, he gets an offer from Penn State today. South Carolina, Clemson among his many other offers. Georgia, Louisville, North Carolina, Troy, Michigan, NC State, Virginia Tech. 6'1", 198 defensive back. All right, there you go with the recruiting. Remember to check it out online all the time on our website, sportstalk.com. Back to the phones we go before the top of the hour. David down in Charleston with us next here on Sports Talk. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Great. How are you guys?
We're terrific. Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, I just wanted to say, even though I was very disappointed in Cam after he walked away, but I do understand why he did it. But after the fact that he was so mauled that whole night. But what I'm not understanding why nobody's talking about the aggressiveness that Denver was playing with.
Mm-hmm. You mean like how good their defense was, how dominating their defense was?
Their defense was extremely dominant, but
yeah.
Aqib Talib is what comes to mind. I mean, that face mask that he did on Corey Brown was just horrible, and nobody's hardly even talking about it.
He said he did it on purpose, too.
Yeah, he may get suspended. There may be some suspension.
Wasn't really smart for him to say that he did it on purpose.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, along those lines, on the sack of Newton where they scooped and scored, they got a hand up on the face mask there. Mm-hmm. That should have been called. That could have been hands to the face.
Yeah.
And that would have saved that score, and who knows how that might have changed the game.
This game's under protest. Yeah, the Panthers got jobbed.
Let's play it. Let's play it again next Sunday.
I'd be fine with that.
Thanks for your phone call. Top of the hour break. Continue with the calls in the next hour.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, on a chilly, downright cold Tuesday night here in the capital city and all around the state of South Carolina. Bundle up, throw on an extra layer, or just bundle up next to someone you love. That's the best way, in my mind, to get heat and to warm up. You know, is just to put your arms around somebody who's warmer than you and just suck the heat right out of them.
So like diving on a fumble.
Ooh. Diving on a fumble, yeah. Great idea. That's a great way to warm up.
Hey, it's one way to
See
stay
that
warm.
pigskin rolling around?
You'll have a bunch of guys on top of you.
That's right. 800-956-7266, the number, and email talkback at sportstalksc.com. And let's see, in the email box, some email here that has been aging, but getting finer with age. This is from Tommy. I hear that Kevin Tater Mac McCrary. Tater Mac McCrary
is going to Tater Mac McCrary
throw out the first pitch when the Gamecocks open against Albany. The second day, Tiger Nick Haley is going to throw out the first pitch. Is this true? Okay, Mac.
We can confirm that is not true.
Okay.
I will not.
Now, on a serious note, do you think Sandarius Thornwell will go pro this year? I would say no. It's to Marcus Blanton back to 100%. Haven't seen much of him recently.
Played a lot. He has not.
There was a time there early in the year he was getting some playing time, but that is not one who's come up for discussion.
I don't think it's a health issue.
Frank Martin,
just a rotation
performance.
issue.
Yeah,
I think it's a rotation issue, and I think because of that injury, we don't know what the recovery time is because not only is the hip injured, but all the muscles have to have some kind of atrophy around there, so it might take him 2 years to recover.
Another email here from Mark. While watching the ESPN 30 for 30 on the 85 Bears, it had me thinking, is William Perry the only player in history to win a national championship as a freshman and a Super Bowl as a rookie?
Probably.
That's a good question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research.
You have to do some research on that.
Let's get our research department working on that.
The only player in history to win a national championship as a freshman and a Super Bowl as a rookie.
As a rookie.
Yeah.
Maybe. You know, one of the big regrets as a fan that you look back on it and you're happy for William is still that fact because, and I think it hits home because he's now the late Walter Payton, that they did not give that ball to Walter at the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
And that really
still kind of sticks with you.
Yeah.
You would have liked to have Walter Payton get in the end zone in a Super Bowl at least one time. We're going to hit a break, and we'll be back. 800-956-7266. You're good. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Tuesday night. A couple of other notes to pass along to you tonight. The high school basketball rankings for the week. You know, this is the last week of the regular season for high school basketball. Playoffs start next week. So, 4A boys, look at Irmo. What is any better high school basketball coach in our state than Tim Whipple? He loses his best player. And he loses him in sort of a disappointing way, but he loses him. And does he let it ruin the season? They're ranked number 1, followed by James Island, Westside, Burns, and Blythewood. 3A boys, AC Flora, followed by Seneca, Berea, Marlboro County, and Daniel. 2A boys, Ridgeland, Hardyville, followed by Keenan, Silver Bluff, Abbeville, and Andrew Jackson. 1A boys, Christchurch, Denmark Oler, Southside Christian, Calhoun County, and Hemingway. Now your girls, 4A top 10, Rock Hill, followed by Goose Creek, Greenville, Spring Valley, and Sumter. Then it's, I'm giving you 5 of the top 10. 3A girls, Dreer, Lancaster, Crestwood, Myrtle Beach, Orangeburg, Wilkinson. 2A, Bishop, England, Pendleton, Andrew Jackson, Mullins, and Dillon. And 1A, Timmonsville, Christchurch, C.A. Johnson, Calhoun County, and Burke. We'll make an exception here to tell you that Latta, defending state champion, is number 8 in the poll this week.
Yeah, Tim Whipple, you pull back tapes of B.J. Mackey and pull up a tape of this year's games, and he's running the same
stuff.
The same stuff, and it works.
Stuff, never changes. From Wofford, Fletcher McGee is the Southern Conference Player of the Week. He averaged over 20 points and shot 73%, including 85% beyond the arc in 3 games. He scored in double figures in all 3. And what was it he did so well against somebody? Oh, he was 9 of 10 against VMI from three-point land.
Yeah, and they hit 81% of their threes last night.
That's pretty
17
strong.
of 21.
Last week, he was 19 of 26 from the floor, 17 of 20 behind the arc, and 6 of 6 from the line. That's strong in anybody's league. And Wofford is hanging in there, tied for 4th in the SoCon. They're going to be a factor in the Southern Conference tournament. The SEC is doing Dikembe Mutombo toward the Michigan football team. They are shaking their fingers saying, not in our house. SEC has asked the NCAA to prohibit college teams from holding spring practice during spring break. Greg Sankey told CBS Sports that today. This is directed at Michigan, which announced that it's going to move its spring practice, part of it, to the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida. They will begin their spring break on February 27th and go through March 6th. There is currently no NCAA rule prohibiting such a move. One high-ranking source told CBS Sports that an effort similar to Michigan's will most likely be prohibited in the near future, but a decision is not expected to be handed down in time to prevent the planned trip to Florida. All right. Should a team be allowed to go and hold their spring practice anywhere they choose?
Well, there's only going to be 4 practices, and it's only going to be the first 4 days.
First 2 will be in shorts.
Exactly. The one thing I have.
But you know why they're doing it.
Yeah, I know why they're doing it. But here's the interesting thing. I think why they're doing it could backfire. Because if you're a kid from Florida and it's spring and you're there at Michigan for practice, okay, you know, Michigan is a great place. We'd love you to come there. And then you ask the question. It's February spring practice. Okay, question, coach. Why are you here?
Well, he'll say because we're recruiting. Right. We want to be seen. They've got an indoor facility. They don't have to practice in the snow and the cold.
But the point is, I'm asking you, the weather's that bad in Michigan? And your players are supposed to be on spring break, right, Coach? But you're here doing spring. No,
I mean, what happened to these kids? Don't get a spring break anymore. Normally during spring break, the players get off and they're able to go have a spring break. But now they got to be paraded down there to help other players come in there that might replace them. Yeah, take their job or replace them. They're just being paraded around as recruiting tools. And they talk about, you know, schoolwork compared to travel and all the tax, you know, the athletes now they can't have a bigger playoff. But meanwhile, they do this kind of stuff. I really think this is a little ridiculous. The NCAA should get in there and say, you have your spring practice on your campus. You're not going to go around and do these traveling spring practices. That's not a good precedent to set.
Yeah, they do have what's one of their rules? It has to do with recruiting. You can't what was it when you can't take a recruit more than X number of miles off campus, like when he's on his official visit. There are things they can do, and they know they can do it. And it's just again, the whole recruiting process, it gets zanier by the year as coaches try to come up with ways to beat the system. They're all trying to come up with ways to beat the system. Now, I read some of what Will Muschamp said when he was on Feinbaum's show yesterday, and he was, he was saying basically he pays no attention to recruiting rankings and star ratings, and he blamed the media, and I think more specifically the recruiting networks on the internet for a lot of the issues going on in recruiting, because he pointed out the money that they make as a result, that this has become a money-making business for a lot of people outside the bubble. But you know what? Free enterprise, capitalism, you got an idea. Somebody came up with an idea. I wish it had been me. Somebody came up with an idea, and they made millions. Here's my point back to him. I don't totally disagree with his opinion about all that, but again, people can make a living how they can make a living.
Well, yeah, but it
I
doesn't
look
make
at
it right.
him or any coach and say, don't lecture the media or people who are covering recruiting when you and yours continue to break the rules that are written. For example, you're not supposed to offer players before their senior year. Going into their senior year, you're not supposed to make them official offers before going into their senior year. That's when the written official offer can be made. I think it's like in June or July.
But you can make a verbal one.
You make a verbal, but the point is, what's the purpose of the rule if you're going to tramp all over the spirit of the rule? Ohio State already has 11 commitments for the 2017 class, which means they've made official offers to these guys and have taken their commitments, which means they pay no attention to the rule. And my point is that is inbred throughout the entire coaching fraternity when it comes to recruiting, and that is we'll break any rule that we think we can break and not get hammered on. But then again, how do you turn around and criticize any other part of the recruiting process, inside or out, when you can't follow a simple rule? And I'm not picking on Muschamp. It's across the board. Dabo Swinney does the same thing. They all offer these kids some in, Xavier Thomas down at Wilson, who's a man-child, but he's just a ninth grader getting offers in the ninth grade, legitimate offers. They might not be on paper, but they're legitimate offers.
Yeah.
And so what's the point of the rule? Either get rid of the rule or start penalizing people for breaking the rule. Well, the problem is that the NCAA has they've got no backbone when it comes to this sort of stuff.
Because the money keeps rolling in. I thought it was interesting that Muschamp did say, I don't follow recruiting rankings. In fact, those guys are cheating off my paper, because I see where some players that I had, nobody had on the recruiting thing. Then they look on my paper, and then suddenly they got 3 stars because I'm recruiting them.
Muschamp said that?
Muschamp said somebody's cheating on my paper.
So he's saying because he offers a guy, the recruiting networks bump him up?
Well, what he's
I
saying,
thought that was only Alabama and Florida State and Ohio State that had that kind of impact.
Well, he's had that impact because he's been at Texas and Florida and at Auburn. But he said, I've had a feeling in years past they were looking on my paper. Is what we're doing, is what he's saying. Now, the interesting thing about Muschamp, and I want to see if he follows through on this, because what has he said? He's not going to offer a guy unless he comes on the campus. Was that it? And I'm the only one that can.
He's the only guy that can offer.
Yeah.
But I mean, because the coaches, they know better than to get caught up in the rankings. The problem is the players don't. There's players that have an offer to Alabama, and they're mad that they don't have a 5th star.
You're exactly right about that. We'll be right back. Going to hear from Cam Newton in a moment. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, 800-956-7266. So they cleared out the lockers today over at Bank of America Stadium. You know, that's always a hey, look, there's a winner and a loser. They did the same thing, I'm sure, in Denver today at their stadium, and they had a big old party and big smile on their face. Not so in Charlotte, where it was a time to say goodbye. What's his name? The tight end, Greg Olsen shaved his beard, big old nasty looking beard. That's gone. Some of these guys won't be back. They know that. That's the nature of the business. Most will, some won't. Anyway, you know who everybody wanted to talk to, and that was Cam Newton. I'll let you lead into it, K-Mac. You've listened to it, but he did stand there and take the questions from the media today, right?
Well, he certainly answered the questions, although he like Sunday, he wasn't exactly thrilled to be there.
I didn't want to talk to the media at the time. And truth of the matter is, I really still don't want to talk to the media. But at the end of the day, things has to happen. I had a lot of time to go back and play everything back. And like I say, I'm human. I've never once said that I was perfect. I never proclaimed that I was perfect. But at the end of the day, people pick and they do things of that sort. And that the truth of the matter is, who are you to say that your way is right? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, we got all these people that's condemning and saying, oh man, he should have did this, that, and the third. But what makes your way right? I mean, I've been on record to say I'm a sore loser. Who likes to lose? You show me a good loser and I'm gonna show you a loser. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to it's not a popularity contest. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to win football games. And for this organization, for Mr. Richardson, for my teammates, and for what it's worth, my fans, they know what's real. And I leave everything else out on the field. I prepare the right way. I have a mentality. I have a standard that I set for myself. And I'm not going to bend nor break. I don't dive on one fumble because the way my leg was, it could have been contorted away. Okay, you say my effort. I didn't dive down. I fumbled. That's fine. But at the end of the day, that game wasn't built off of, we didn't lose that game, that fumble. I can tell you that. So, you can condemn and say, well, oh man, he gave up, he did that and the third. But hey, as long as my teammates know, as long as my coaches know, as long as anybody that's following this team knows, I mean, it's easy for a person to nitpick and say, oh man, Cam this, oh, he gave up, he did that. That's cool, that's fine. I mean, I'm a grown man, I can understand that. But to say some things along the lines of that and to say it in my face, that's extremely different. If I offended somebody, that's cool. But I know who I am, and I'm not perform nor bend for anybody's expectations because your or anybody else's expectations would never exceed mine.
All right, good stuff from Cam Newton. I like the passion. I like the emotion. I like the fire.
Doesn't care what you think.
In his tone. I can live with that. We'll be right back.
Information. Information. Information.
Yeah, I hear what Cam's saying, and he doesn't have to bow down to anybody. And he doesn't have to worry about how people think about him. That's no skin off his nose. He can go about his business, et cetera, et cetera. I do think when he looks back on this, he's a year older. He'll be in year 6 next year. Reigning MVP, quarterback of the team who'll be favored to go back to the Super Bowl next year. I think he'll realize, next time I think I'll just handle this maybe a little bit differently, win or lose. Because you see, let's say they win the Super Bowl next year, and then he's going to go to the press conference and probably have his little kid with him, like they like to bring the children out there now.
Chosen.
Yeah. And he'll stay there for a half hour answering questions. And people will say, that's a little bit hypocritical because a year ago you blew everybody off after about 3 or 4 minutes. And now because you won, and the point is, Luke Kuechly, I saw his interview session. He sat there for I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm.
But now that could be just a difference in personalities.
He was selling alarm systems. That's what he was doing.
He's a different guy. I don't have any doubt that people close to Cam, and he has guys that he trusts. I know Warren Moon, and he's had people that have tried to help him do better and help his image and his persona, because he did come to the NFL with a lot of baggage. Let's face it, the guy, and the Panthers helped him with this. And I think a lot of the baggage, it's small stuff. I mean, this guy, he's not Johnny Manziel, okay? He's not out there doing terrible things. He's not Greg Hardy. This isn't a bad person per se, but I think some guys like him that are wired like him, and he is wired.
He's emotional.
He's wired like Michael Jordan. He's wired like Kobe Bryant. He's wired like Tiger Woods, where the only thing that motivates them is getting better and winning. And those kind of people don't really do well with the media because they don't have time to talk to some jackleg reporter that doesn't know anything. He doesn't care. I mean,
he wasn't talking to jackleg reporters that don't know anything. He was talking to the national media, the best in the business.
Well, really,
that I wasn't there.
I mean, media is media. Look, we're all in the media, and it was, to me, it's lazy to sit there and do the whole Cam Newton didn't talk enough after the Super Bowl piece, or it's just really. I mean, I think the Panthers aren't in that game without Cam Newton.
Yeah, a 32-year-old Cam Newton standing there, and the 26-year Cam Newton. Once he has a son and he wants his son to emulate him, you'd be surprised how mature you act all of a sudden. But it would be interesting if the Panthers won and Cam Newton is standing there and he comes to the podium and everybody walks off and takes their bikes.
I've often thought about that.
But that won't happen.
Listen, I'm mad at some college players. And
they don't talk to Phil.
No, he never took my phone call, and I'm sort of like, okay,
guy.
You know what? I am never talking to you during your college career. And so far,
that's not that different when you were in high school.
So far, I've stuck to it. There's one in particular. I'll keep it to myself. There's one in particular. I've stuck to it.
He's a very popular guy too. It's going to be hard for you to. He talks to everybody else but you. I don't know.
Well, he would have to talk to me now, but I mean, during recruiting, he hung up on me, never took my calls, and that's fine, except I kind of look at myself as the adult, and them, even though they're behemoths, they're still children in my eyes. I'm the adult, you're the child. Let's have a little respect here. They don't, look at it that way because they've been promised the world on a string by used car salesmen who meet with them, throughout the weeks during recruiting.
You're calling college football coaches used car salesmen?
Well, that's what they are when they're recruiting. They're trying to sell. They're
selling dreams. They're selling futures.
They're selling you a bill of goods in a lot of places.
They're giving you a scholarship.
You're undervaluing an education.
No, listen. I'm the last one who said an education is enough for a scholarship. You don't need to throw anything else in there.
Yeah, because you get an all-expenses paid trip to Florida for
that was shouted
spring
down.
ball.
I will say this: if Hayden had gotten recruiting, Quan would have swung that door open to every used car sale. But you're done with the paying for the college
that's a good thing I
education
didn't
deal.
have I just take the highest bidder. Okay, what do you
Would
have?
would you have violated all the rules as a parent? You would have just
sure, yeah, get what you can. What did the kid, the grade kid, didn't one of his close advisors get a job at Michigan somehow? Isn't that what they said?
Oh, Gary?
Yeah, Gary.
Well, one of his former coaches at his high school is now a coach of some, he's on the staff.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah, it is. And that's
they
an
find
old
a job.
Trick. That's an age-old trick in recruiting.
Oh, yeah. Who's your favorite person?
Either that or offer his best friend who, might not be able to carry water in a bucket, but offer him a scholarship too, or the girlfriend. That's always a good way.
I've heard that a lot of the Duke basketball players' moms get good jobs working there in the Duke hospitals.
Oh, is that what it is?
Funny things happen.
But it's not. It's like what did Eddie Fogler used to say? Is it illegal? No. Is it ethical? Well,
yeah. We question is it ethical? John Wall's high school coach got a job at Baylor, but John Wall ended up wearing Kentucky.
The number one item that you can cite in this kind of deal is Danny Manning.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ed Manning ends up on the staff where?
At Kansas.
Correct.
And this Danny Manning ended up on the staff, leaving his job as a truck driver and no degree.
That's right.
And he was sitting next to Larry Brown, and there was Danny and the Miracles winning that national championship with Scooter Barry, one of Rick Barry's sons.
Mm-hmm. All right. Ron Rivera, the Panthers coach, also met with the media today. His goodbye speech to the media for a little while. Of course, NFL coaches, they never really take a break. They'll be hard at work breaking down film, looking at the prospects for the draft, and they'll be very much in the news between now and then. They'll have those, what's it called, OTAs. Mm-hmm. Have plenty of those over in Charlotte and start getting ready for 2016 before you know it. Let's listen to Rivera as he gives his final words and takes a few questions from the media.
Well, the truth of the matter is, Bill, it's not going to change. I mean, we didn't play well enough to win. They did some really good things. They made some plays and capitalized. We didn't. So, it doesn't change. It really doesn't. It's disappointing. I still believe in this football team. Still believe in who we have, this coaching staff, the players, this organization. And, we're going to go forward now.
In that second half, I think you guys had 8 penalties or so. You ended up with 12. Mm-hmm. Was that somewhat like when losing composure against San Francisco?
I don't think so. There's some things that I've got to look at, and I've got to go through those things, and I will.
Ron, do you think the criticism of Cam is fair?
No. Again, what we're asking people to do in a stressful situation, after a very difficult situation, set of circumstances, is to gather a composure and step up right away. I'm not sure how fair that is. I'm really not. And he's not the only player that's ever been through a situation like that and handled it like that. I think him stepping up to the plate like he did today is probably a little bit easier for him to have dealt with, having a chance to reflect and think about it himself. So, I don't think it's fair. You don't know the young man, personally. There's a lot of young men like this. That losing is not an easy thing. And again, he really does not like to lose. I understand that. I get that. I understand who he is. So just knowing that time will heal it for him and time will make it better for him, he'll be able to handle it, which he did today. I think that's the fair thing.
All right, Ron Rivera talking to the media in Charlotte today after the team cleared out and had a chance to have their final meetings and go their separate ways. I don't know this roster, this lineup inside and out, but what little bit I do know is it appears on paper that they return in pretty good shape next year in terms of their key weapons. Oh, really?
They got to get. Josh Norman.
They'll get him signed, or if not, they'll franchise him. They've already said they'll franchise.
The first thing you got to think of is, and it didn't bite them in the tail to this game, they got to get some tackles in there, offensive tackles.
Are you making fun of blindside?
Oh, well,
I was waiting for Sandra Bullock to make a call down to Ron Rivera in the middle of the game to give him advice on how to block Von Miller. Huh. He made that call.
Well,
somebody needed to make that call.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some fine tuning of things, but I think the basic core will be back.
Yeah, the offensive tackles, somebody go with.
Now Purdue's beating Michigan State. That's at Purdue, 44-30. Kansas up on West Virginia, 36-26. And Pittsburgh is winning down at Miami, 33-28.
And in Knoxville, it's Tennessee 34, Auburn 23 at the half. And, of course, that's the coach of Auburn returning to the scene of the crime of Tennessee. And boy, you know, without Canty, Auburn is just, they may lose every game now.
Now, last night, Clemson played Notre Dame in Greenville. 9 o'clock tip-off. Notre Dame coming off the win over North Carolina, feeling pretty good about things. Clemson coming off the loss to Virginia Tech, feeling like they needed to get this one in the worst way. And Notre Dame was just too good. They ran their offense too well, made shots, hurt them inside. Clemson's big men non-existent. They were their 3 big men combined were outproduced by Zach August by himself, and it wasn't even close. Here is Brad Brownell talking about it after the loss.
Congratulate Notre Dame on the play tonight. They played extremely well, just kind of fed off their performance against North Carolina. I knew that they would come in here with a ton of confidence. When you play the way they did on Saturday night and execute and make shots, you're going to come into the next game feeling really good about yourself. And you know, it's disappointing. We just didn't quite have it. We got into a shootout tonight with a team with a bigger gun and more bullets, and that's not going to be how we beat them. And I thought our defense was reasonably good in the first half, but in the second half it just kind of fell apart, to be honest with you. We just weren't. I got to go back and look at exactly what happened. Obviously, we made the run and had a couple chances, but to Notre Dame's credit, you know, every time we'd make a little run and get it to a possession or 4 points or whatever it would be, they'd make a big three, or you know, Zach August really hurt us in the second half, and that's what's good about Notre Dame. They've got older players that play with poise, and they always have 5 guys on the floor that can score. And you know, tonight they got really something from everybody. VJ Beacham made 4 threes. Ryan made 2 threes off the bench. Vastoria just played a great floor game. Jackson, you know, opportunistic, but very efficient. So just too good offensively for us with the way we played tonight. You know, I don't know. I mean, that kind of thing happens. It's, you know, obviously we're not going to try to make it happen. We need to take a couple of days. Like, we're beat up, we're tired, we're sick, we don't feel great, and we probably shouldn't feel great. We haven't played as well the last couple of weeks that we played for a month. That's part of, you know, basketball at this level is, you know, it's such a long season. You're going to play through things. And, you know, the Virginia Tech game was a rock fight. It was a tough game. It was physical. It was, you know, 60-57, just possession grinding. And tonight was more of a pickup game, just the way that Notre Dame plays. It feels like you're playing a pickup game where you're just kind of moving around, and, you know, that's how they want it. They're so efficient, and, you know, it's an easy game for them to get comfortable, and, you know, they're better at it than we are. And, you know, we need to take a couple days and rest and try to get a couple guys healthy. We got a couple guys that are, you know, aren't feeling great with some sickness, and we got a couple guys that Avery's groin's really bothering him, and you know, we just got to get our minds right again also. No, I thought it was just Landry had a bad night. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Our centers did not play well. Surprised me. I thought we tried to go inside to him early in the game. I thought we could, you know, we wanted to attack Zach August a little bit, make sure he has to play defense. And, you know, Landry just, for whatever reason, wasn't 100% there. He just didn't have a good game, and probably got in his own way a little bit. You know, he missed a couple shots that he can make. He passed a couple out when he probably could have tried to score, fumbled a couple. He just didn't get into a rhythm. And when you're playing a team that scores as well as they score, you know, we're going to need 4 guys to really play well. And it can't all be 3-point shots. And
all right, Brad Brownell, following last night's loss to Notre Dame, Tigers back in action 2 o'clock Saturday at the Well against Georgia Tech, a game that they should win. Georgia Tech, once again, well below standards. I see no way, and their coach is a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but I see no way he makes it after this season.
No, it's no excuse for a team like Georgia Tech in the ACC and in Atlanta to be struggling like this recruiting hotbed that Atlanta is for basketball. People don't understand that, but there's a lot of good talented players in Atlanta, and talented players who would love to come to Atlanta and play ACC basketball.
All right, we'll be back to wrap it up in a moment. Tennessee is having a little NCAA activity going on tonight. Did you catch that? Something about self-reporting. Football team was involved in 4 violations, 3 of which involved recruiting.
Oof. Okay.
I'm just catching it there on the crawl. You can get all the details. K-Mac, you see anything on that popping up anywhere?
I do not. Have not seen anything.
That's what we do here.
We stay on top of the stories.
Breaking news.
Slapping
news breaks, we fix it.
Now, that's a good line. The poll question, if you haven't had a chance to get to it, I'll remind you once again on our website. Poll question is, how will USC fare against LSU and Kentucky? So let's find out from our esteemed panel how USC will fare in the 2 big games coming up pro.
I think my feeling deep down from a mental standpoint is they will split. I think they beat LSU, they lose to Kentucky. But I would not be surprised if it wasn't a sweep. But I think they can lose to Kentucky because I think Kentucky knows desperately they've got, if they're going to get any kind of seed in the tournament, they've got to win the ball game Saturday.
Okay, Mac.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to anything you guys were saying.
You know, I know you're going away for a couple of days.
I was manning our
Thursday,
sports talk.
but
I was manning the sports talk Twitter feed. So now you guys lost me.
We're talking about the poll question. You've heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
so what's your take? Will the Gamecocks win both, lose both, or split?
They're going to beat LSU and lose to Kentucky. They'll split.
Okay. Well,
that's what you guys were talking about. I could have just winged it. I was going to take the chance, but no, I had no idea.
You probably should just come back and said, I think Cam was okay in what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I made that clear. No, I think the game. I'm looking forward to watching Ben Simmons play tomorrow night.
Yeah,
that's the best player to come through Colonial Life since John Wall. I guess was the last big player.
Well, Kentucky. They come every year.
Well, no, they had Anthony
Davis,
didn't they? They had Anthony Davis after John Wall.
Yeah,
they've every year. Well, they've had
Cousins,
the dude who's with the Lakers, the rookie.
Yeah, Russell. Randall, I mean.
Yeah, he came through. So Rondo came through with Kentucky at one time.
He did.
I think that I don't know.
Oh, this is a lot of thought.
Well, I'm a deep thinker.
Yes, that's what a lot of people say about you. You are a very deep thinker.
I
Plato over here, Socrates.
I think the Gamecocks. I think they will lose to LSU
and beat Kentucky.
Wow.
I will say this: the one key point.
Though I won't be shocked if they lose both.
The one key point out of all of this, since they're at home, watch an integral part of if South Carolina has success. Is the playing time that Jamal Gregory gets. Every time he comes in the game, there's energy, and he does something to make the bench go wow.
All right. Thank you, Larkin Belton, and thank you, Carson Mason, for doing a great job. We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.
Including that block that